Welcome to How Preschool Teachers Do It.
This is Allison Kentos. I am an early childhood educator.
And this is Cindy Tarabush. I am an early childhood consultant.
This podcast is for parents and early childhood professionals.
Let our experience and research-based knowledge become your guide. Happy Monday, preschool peeps.
Happy Monday.
Here we are, like every Monday. But we today are going to talk about something that's happening because we are a number of weeks into the school year now, and kids are kind of becoming who they are going to be every week. They are, right? They're becoming themselves. Yeah. It takes human beings a couple of weeks to really feel comfortable in their environment and become themselves. And so a lot of what I'm hearing from schools, and you can tell me about you, Allison, but a lot of what I'm hearing is, oh my gosh, we're dealing with behaviors now. The kids have come out of their shell and they are just being themselves and behaving their age. And we're dealing now not only with our own anxiety about the social distance rules and all that, but also the children's behavior is typically challenging because that's the age they're at.
Yeah. And that challenging behavior interferes with all your distancing rules, which it's this big circle. At least
it is. It's a terrible circle.
That is what I've noticed in my class, that suddenly the behaviors have come out, which it's hard because we're all at desks. So I get it. Like when you want to get a little, rowdy or whatever, but like at the same time, like you can't be like this close to your friend. You can't be like on top of your friend. I understand you want to go and have fun and there's times for that, but there's also time that we need to stop and learn, and it kind of interferes. And normally I don't think we would care about the distance. We'd be like, okay, well, no, now we kind of do, so yeah.
So we really have to think about the effective ways to approach this challenging behavior. And I suspect that there are people who work with young children who aren't aware of the way that we need to look at challenging behavior. But this not only helps them, it also helps any parents who may be listening to this. And by the way, this method of analyzing that we're going to talk about today, analyzing the challenging behavior, also works on adults around you. So there you go. I'm going to give you a tool where you can kind of look at anybody's behavior. And it's something that I teach when I teach about challenging behavior and children's behavior as a whole on the college level. So for those people who maybe were either educated a long time ago before some of these methods were really emphasized out there or put out there, or for people who may be teaching, for people who may be teaching, who haven't had the opportunity to learn about this sort of behavior analysis, I think it's helpful all around.
It's helpful, yeah.
So the episode is called The ABCs of Challenging Behavior because it's literally the ABC method of figuring out why the children are behaving the way they are. It's literally ABC. Yeah. And A stands for the word antecedent. That means what happened before. So we need to first look at what was going on right before the child exhibited this behavior. And not just what was the child doing. What were the adults doing? What were the other children doing? What was happening in the environment, in the space, right before this challenging behavior occurred? Then the B stands for the behavior itself. So you have to document the behavior itself without judgment, without adjectives, just what did the child do? The child hit someone, the child bit someone, the child threw something, the child shoved someone. Like, what was the behavior? Just like one sentence period, this was the behavior. And then the C stands for consequences. And that's not punishment. The consequences when we do a behavior analysis are what was the reaction of everyone around that child. Very often, children will do something and then the other children pay a lot of attention to it, right? They may look up and laugh. They may look up and gasp. They might look up and say, Mrs. Tarabush, did you see him throw that? Those are the consequences of the behavior, the reactions of the other people.
Yeah. I also think sometimes the reaction is because it's effective. So you have a child say that hits or bites because they want the toy or something that the other person has. And if they bite or hit that child, the child reacts because they're like, oh, I got bit, drops the toy. Oh, now I have the toy. It's effective, So if it works, they're going to keep that in their toolbox. They're like, 100%. Well, that worked for me.
If they repeatedly do a behavior, it's because it's working.
It's working.
You may not think it's working because you're giving them a lot of negative attention because of it, but it's working.
Yeah, it's working.
When you do the ABC analysis and you look at what happened right before, what is the behavior, and what were the consequences, you're going to discover what the child is getting from it. That formally is called the function of the behavior. The function is basically what does the behavior provide the child with? What's its function? What does it provide the child with that the child has been seeking? And often it's attention.
It's attention. Yeah. They want attention. Yeah.
It's attention. And oh my gosh, if I had a dime for every time I said to a teacher when they say to me, she's just trying to get attention. And I look at them and I go, she's just trying to get attention. I repeat their words back to them all the time with a different emphasis. She's just trying to get your attention. Well, she's just trying to get our attention. And I'm like, yeah, she's just trying to get your attention.
Trying to get your attention.
And we go back and forth until the staff looks at me and says, you are telling me to pay attention to this child. And I'm like, I am. I'm not telling you to give that behavior the majority of the attention. What I'm telling you is this child needs more attention in the course of the day. So, right? If it's attention, then we have to give, that's what the child needs. That's what the child is seeking. Right. All behavior is communication. I know I've said that before on this podcast. It's been it's been months and a pandemic later, but I'm going to say it again. All behavior is communication. They're always trying to tell you what they need. And often it's attention, but not always. I've worked with children who find a particular task to be difficult, so they will exhibit challenging behavior to get out of doing that task.
Yes. I have that in my class now. I do. Yes. Where it's like, let me just do a challenging, or if I can make the rest of the class laugh when they're supposed to be working, awesome. I also have some that are like, avoidance. There's a lot of avoidance. I need to go to the bathroom. I need to go to the bathroom. I need to go to the bathroom because the math task was too hard or whatever it may be. But it's like, I'm watching that. I'm onto you. I know, that this is hard for you, so let me give you some one-on-one time to work through this task that's hard for you and give you some strategies on how to figure that out. But if you're not paying attention, you're just like, okay, she's got a bathroom problem, or, or this kid's as people would say, like the class clown. Like, no, like there's a reason for that, or some of them, like Cindy was saying, they want attention. So give them the kind of attention that you want to give them instead of giving it towards that negative way, by giving them a consequence for that behavior. Actually give them attention that they would like. Have a conversation with them as soon as they hit the door, as soon as they come to the door. Give them attention, get to know them, and then they won't feel that they have to do challenging behaviors to get your attention because you gave it to them already in a positive way.
Yeah, I think part of the problem is that, just because we're human beings, when a child kind of pushes our buttons or gets under our skin, we tend to withhold attention instead of give it, right? In positive ways. When if we gave it in positive ways, it would mitigate the behavior that's irritating us. We do the wrong thing. Even think about your relationship with adults in that way. When adults behave in a way that we don't like, we unfriend them. We literally unfriend them. We're like, get out of my life.
To block you.
I'm going to block you from my life.
Let me block you. Yeah.
And we think that will work. I don't know I think people don't even realize sometimes that that's what they're doing, that now that child who kind of gets under your skin or you find to be very challenging, I don't even know that adults realize that what they're actually doing is withdrawing instead of going toward the child and being like, how can I help you? What do you need? We actually need to go toward those children and not away.
Yeah.
And we need to teach them how to get our attention. And the way you get my attention is making good decisions about your behavior. That's how you teach self-regulation. But children aren't born knowing how to regulate their own behavior. Children aren't born knowing how to cope with their own frustration. And so it's our duty to figure out what was going on before, what is the behavior, and what are the consequences that's feeding the continuation of this behavior. You know, if it's a one-shot behavior, well, then the child tried something and it didn't work and they'll never do it again. But more often, challenging behavior becomes a repetitive cycle. And sometimes that cycle happens. I want to talk about the antecedent, the thing that happened before. Sometimes that cycle happens because we're giving a directive that the child finds difficult to understand or follow. One of the most challenging directives, I think, that we give in early childhood classrooms is to clean up. That is a time, it's, you know, people say, transition times are when we see a lot of behaviors come out. That's true. And because the kids are like frazzled by transitions, which we can talk about in a future episode. But I also think that when we say clean up, you know, that's a transition, and that's a transition where we're not only saying stop what you're doing, we're going to move on to something else against your will, but we're also saying, and you have this complicated task to do. So cleanup tends to be a time when you see children exhibit challenging behaviors. And sometimes it's a matter of how I tell them to do it. That's the antecedent. I just looked at children and said, clean up, and they didn't know what to do with that. So they exhibited all sorts of behaviors. Next time, I'm going to try saying, for the next week, I'm going to try saying to them, can you pick up one thing and put it on the shelf and see if I still see those behaviors? Sometimes it's actually the way that we walk them through routines that's the problem. So that's why you have to look at the antecedent. And if you're thinking, well, there is no big, giant social consequence to this behavior, and I'm making sure not to pay too much attention to it. Now you got to think about what was happening right before. Can you change the way you say something? Can you change that routine? Sometimes just knocking children off their expected routine resets their behavior.
I've noticed in my class, because we're all at desks now and they're in kindergarten, and I would be like, okay, clean off, you know, put your stuff away. That's what I would say at first. And they were like, yeah, okay, cool. And their definition of putting their stuff away was like, cool, I'm just going to push it against that splash shield. Good, we're great here. And I'm like, yeah, that's not my definition of cleaning up. So I actually had to do a whole lesson on it. I'm like, here's what we're going to do. First, we're going to organize our space. You know, we're going to put all of our academic stuff in our seat pouch, and we're going to put everything else underneath. And now when I say, clean off your workstation and put all of your supplies where we said we were going to put them, now they do it, you know. But it took me like giving a lesson. So like with the younger kids, like, this is how we clean up the blocks. We take one block and we put it on this shelf. We take another block, we put it on this shelf, and we all work as a team. If we each do one, you know, then it'll all come together. If you walk them through the steps, then when you say, hey, it's time to clean up the block area, oh, I remember when Miss Allison told me how to clean up the block area. One at a time. And then maybe they'll get it. Sometimes you have to walk them, like things that you think are like super easy, like cleaning up blocks, is not necessarily easy for them. They need to be walked through step by step by step. And you might have to break down those steps into smaller steps until they get it. You know?
Right. And think about how you're telling them. That's my biggest advice about the antecedent. And the behavior itself is just the way the child is expressing themselves. That's it. That's how they're expressing their frustration, their anxiety, their you know, their anger, their sadness. It's the behavior that is their form of expression, because early learners don't have the capacity to come up to us necessarily and say, I'm really frustrated with what's happening right now and I'm feeling a little out of control. How many adults don't have the capacity to come up to you and say that? So let's face it. I don't know what we expect out of a 3, 4, 5-year-old.
Sometimes I will ask them, like in my school, the kindergartners are required to not sleep, but rest for 20 minutes. Okay. Well, that was not working. Okay. So today I asked them, I'm like, what can I do as a teacher to make this a time that you will rest your body for 20 minutes? And some of them were like, how about we just not have it? I'm like, yeah, that's not an option. but there are other options that I could do. So then they discovered like we would rather, instead of you putting, I used to put like spa music up on the smart board, you know, and it would have like this, what I find relaxing, a nice serene thing.
Okay, but you're not 4 or 5.
Fishy,
5 or 6.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They said, no, we would like one with words. A calm story with
you
words.
know, and yet they say,
okay,
they say don't put on words. They say don't put on words during rest because the children can't turn that off.
I know. At this point, though, I'm
kindergarten,
gonna try it.
Maybe kindergarten because they're not napping anymore.
Right, they're just resting, and also I want to show them that, like, yes, you can make a suggestion. We try that suggestion, and then we will figure out, did that work? Did it not work? And if it did work, great. Now we got a new routine. If it didn't work, how could we change this? Words didn't work. What else do you want? You know, what do you want to listen to instead?
Yeah, kindergarten, you can do that.
For kindergarten, you can. Younger kids, I don't know.
Younger kids, I would not, it's not necessarily the topic of this, but I would not put on anything with words for younger children. Yeah. Because then they're not going to. Younger children may be napping, they're not going to.
Yeah. But I do think that for other issues, sometimes you can ask them, like, hey, what can we do to fix this? Yeah. You know, like, how can we stop you from throwing a block across the room when you're angry? What can we do?
What can you do instead?
What can we do instead? Here are the options. Which option would you like to try next time? You know, if you need help with that option, I am here for you. You know, but I think sometimes it's like we just kind of tell them what to do. Like, this is what you're going to do. And that might not work. Like if somebody told me, like, Allison, you need to teach this way and that's it, I'd be like, now you put me in a box and now you cause more anxiety. Here are the options of the way you could have handled that. Choose which one works for your mind and body. We'll try that. Let's see if it works. If it didn't work, we'll go to another option. You know, they're not.
Yeah, so I mean, I've looked at kids really young and said to them, well, what can you do when you're mad?
Yeah, what can you do?
Right? Hitting people hurts them. So what can we do when we're mad? And if they can't come up with an idea, then you can provide ideas, or even better, sit the whole class down the next day during your large group. Yeah. Take dolls or puppets and do a social story where you set up a social problem. Someone got mad at somebody and you ask the children, what should the puppet do? You'll be amazed at how many young children can give you the right answer but can't do it themselves when they're upset. And it's because they have such big emotions. So they need our help, right? They need our help. But first we really need to look at the root cause, and the root cause you kind of get to, and the function of the behavior. Why is it working for this child? You get to that through doing ABC analysis. Yeah. And I know we teach college students now, ABC analysis is what you're going to do when you're in a classroom with students, because it gives us also kind of a less biased and more impartial way of looking at the children's behavior when we're analyzing it. We tend to not judge it as much. Please don't judge their behavior. You know, young children are being young children. They're figuring out their world. They're not born knowing any of this. But adults, when we don't know what to do about it, I think get very frustrated and judge it instead of looking at it in a more objective way. So when you have an analysis like that, it's more of an objective way. And then it's better when you go to families to be able to say to them, here's the dates and the times that we documented this behavior, and this all needs to be documented. So here's the dates and the times we documented the behavior. Here's what we were doing before it happened. Here were the natural consequences of the behavior. What do you all think, family? What do you think I might be try in school to break the cycle of this challenging behavior? You may be surprised what families will say to you. They may say to you, oh, you know, yeah, my child really doesn't respond to that sort of direction, or my child definitely feeds off of the laughter of the other children. I can definitely see that happening. Is there anything we can do about the other children laughing about what my child is doing? You may be surprised when you bring that sort of factual analysis to a family, how much more productive the conversation is about working together to solve the problem.
And sometimes because you have that data, right, and it has like the time and everything on it, sometimes the problems have an easy solution. Like I had a boy a couple years ago that would get a little hangry, right before lunch. All right. But because I had it and I wrote like, hey, 11 o'clock seems to be around 11 o'clock every day. He gets a little like, where he's hitting or yelling or whatever. And the parents are like, he gets really hungry really fast. Okay. So the solution was we'll pack a heartier snack, at that morning snack. And let's see if that helps him out. And it did. He just wasn't eating enough. He was hangry. Okay. I guess that's what it would be called. Right. And that was an easy solution. And then he and that simple thing of like the parents just like seeing what times it was happening every day, made it be like, oh, it's probably because he's hungry, and
Right.
he just gets really frustrated when he's hungry or angry or upset. And, and that, so it could be simple solutions that I would have never really figured that out if I didn't talk to the parents. I would have never thought like, oh, it's because he's hungry, but it worked.
Okay. So go and be a behavior detective and do an analysis
Yeah.
and try to figure out why you're seeing what you're seeing from the individual children.
Yeah.
So Allison, you're going to let the people know some of the things we need. We're starting to get questions for that 100th episode. It's so exciting.
I know. I'm so excited. Cindy made fun of me every week.
Yeah. But their questions are coming in.
It worked. So if you want your question included on the 100th episode, write us on our website, howpreschoolteachersdoit.com, or you can reach us on Facebook at How Preschool Teachers Do It Podcast. We'll always get back to you. Rate us 5 stars because we're really awesome. And is there something else that I was supposed to say this week?
I don't think so.
Awesome. Did I do everything right? I did.
I think it's I think it's fine. I think it's fine. So we will catch you next time on the podcast, peeps, and let us know how those ABC analysis systems work for you.
Yeah.
Catch you next time. Oh no, our 4 words.
No, our 4 words. I knew there was something else, but that's your thing.
So before we catch you next time, it is my thing. Before we catch you next time, the theme of this year is, look, I'm going to forget now. Understanding and patience, forgiveness and grace.
Yes.
Now we'll catch you next time.
Now we'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.